I'm Dr. Mark Sue, and welcome to the Functional Medicine Reality Podcast. Join me and our community weekly as we bring you unfiltered health from inflammation to longevity. Real stories, real people, real solutions. Experience real-life health changes from both patients and practitioners, and learn how to turn cutting-edge information into real results in your own life so you can feel better, live longer, live healthier, and be confident and clear in your healthcare choices. Let's get real and get results. Hey everyone, welcome again to the Functional Medicine Reality Podcast. I'm Dr. Mark Sue. This is my friend Luigi, and this is one in our series of patient interviews, if you will. Sometimes they're actual patients, sometimes they're not. Most of the times they're going to be actual consultation visits, but today we're going to do another one in the series where we're going to chat about a sort of potpourri, a hodgepodge of topics that have been on Luigi's mind. So as always, our real goal with the podcast, is to be truth-telling and create clarity for everybody so that amidst all the noise and all the voices that we get in our social media, our email boxes, our friends and family, et cetera, we can help others create some clarity within themselves to make better choices, decisions about where you spend your time, money, and effort so that you can be healthier and get better faster if you're sick, or pursue longevity for those who that is your goal. So Luigi, thanks for jumping on. And I'll just briefly say, so yeah, Luigi, you and I, we got to know each other through our oldest son, Christian. You guys are in the same sort of year of schooling. You're not in school together where he is at this point, but we've gotten to know each other, in other ways in town. And as I said to you at the beginning, when I invited you to do this, what I love about you is that you're a questioner. You question things, you don't assume things, you're a digger, and you're a huge self-advocate in all kind of ways, but especially with your health, and that can be physical health, mental health, emotional health, and all the above. So again, for folks like yourself who we bring on the podcast, the point here is that there's a lot of people, I absolutely know there's a lot of people who have similar questions or thoughts as yourself. So you're sort of representing a lot of the lay public, the population, perhaps specifically in your generation or age range, not necessarily. So anyway, thanks for jumping on. And is there anything you want to throw out otherwise as far as your background, your sort of upbringing, who you are, as far as relatability and such, or should we just jump into things?
You can just jump right into things.
All right. Yeah, cool. Well, so look, so I asked you, hey, you've got a lot of interesting and you got a lot of interesting topics that you bring up from time to time. All right. And I said, hey, why don't you just jot down a few of those things? And why don't we, if you're interested, let's jump on a podcast, let's talk about them. So I'll start off with this number one topic of the most recent experience for you. I'll kind of just lay the background. And then after that, I'll kind of let you guide us on where we want to go next, right? Because this is,
go ahead.
Usually this is a little bit raw and unscripted. So, okay. So recently you had a visit to a dermatologist.
Yes, correct.
Right? And you send me this, you send me these texts with like, yo, what's this about? Like, how come this and how come that? Like, they just jumped into this arena in this direction. Like, what's going on with that? Like, are you serious? So it's like, hey, I love the enthusiasm, right? And I love the questioning. So why don't you sort of review that just briefly and tell us what that experience was all about and why did it alarm you so much?
Yeah. So, it all started probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I started seeing signs of just flakiness, dandruff, dry scalp, and I didn't really do anything much. I thought maybe it was because I was using a certain type of conditioner. Maybe it was sweat. Maybe it was just dry scalp, right? And I did some research. I did this and I asked some people who have struggled with it in the past, and they told me to use this product called 1% ketocortisol, or I forget what it's called, but...
So it could be one or two things. It could be cortisol or cortisone, or it could be ketoconazole.
Keto, yes.
With a K?
One. Yes.
Okay.
I actually have it in the bathroom. I'm not sure if I should go grab it or something, but...
If you know it started with a K, then it's going to be ketoconazole.
Yes. It's antifungal, basically.
Okay. Yep. That's right.
Which is honestly very, very not, I want to say normal, but very out of all the cases, that's usually what it is. So I just took it upon myself, I'll give it a shot, I'll see what it does. Sure. I took it for a week. I put it on for a week. I let it sit, just wash it off, and it completely got rid of everything, right? But then I realized that I would just go through my hair and such, and I would see hairs, and not a crazy amount, but something that would kind of raise a red flag and be like, hey, what's going on? So I decided to go to the dermatologist before work the other day, and I was the first patient of the day. Didn't even get to fill out the paperwork correctly. I just walked in, and
Wow.
then I get sat down, and the assistant's asking me a bunch of questions, this and that, and the doctor walks in, right? Very like the whole what I felt the whole time was that it was very like fast paced, be aggressive, not aggressive, but very like just jabbing. Asking me a question like this, and then she asked me like three brief questions, and she went into like, yeah, there's an option that you could use. I forgot what it was like. It was I forget what it's called. It's this pill that you take for the rest of your life, essentially, right? And she downplayed it like, yeah, and you just got to take it for the rest of your life, basically. And it
So you guys had an explicit conversation that it would be like forever.
literally, yeah, she just put it right down. Just put
Sure.
it on the table, like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You're just gonna have to take it for the rest of your life. And it was basically it blocks the DHT or um I forget what it's called. Oh my god, I'm blanking. This is terrible.
And that's all right. Well, they're all different words that we don't use in English language, right?
Right. Yeah. Basically, something testosterone basically blocks something that
I'm pretty
causes the
sure
hair
you. I'm
loss.
pretty sure you alluded to, or I inferred from you that it's finasteride.
Yes, it is.
That's
Yes,
the most
correct.
common
That's
things.
yeah, that one. And I mean, like for some reason, like when I first heard that off the bat, I was like, one, it feels like you're trying to sell me something, and I sell wood for a living. I know I know when someone's like trying to sell me something. You know what I'm saying? Like it was kind of funny because I was like, yeah, for sure, definitely not going with this. And I asked her like, are there any different course of like, is there a different course of action? And then she went to like some cream of some sort, and I'm just kind of like, why is it all like, why do I have to go to a pill for the rest of my life, or like, why do I have to put some random medical cream that is like 1% organic, like it has like 1% organic things, or and it like it's not made out of like aloe vera, or it's not made out of like coconut oil, it's not made out of like anything like that. It's just like a random cream that I've never heard of before. And it's like, yeah, you should use this because it's gonna help you.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe that's like uneducated ignorance, or it's just like, is there something else we can do? Like, can I just eat something that might help me? You know what I'm saying? Like, can I just
Yeah.
eat something more? Can I take these nutrients that might benefit my hair growth, or even just my hair strength? I saw that was super weird, and I just immediately texted you after leaving the office because I felt like it was such a waste of my time. I'm like, I don't even know what I had, what I ended up getting rid of, and where I should go from now, you know?
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, first of all, any description, recall of how you felt like in that visit? Did you? I guess one easy question is, did you actually ask any of those questions, or if not, any particular reasons you can recall, like why you felt that way? I can venture strong guesses why, but I'll leave that to you. And then secondly, just how would you describe that experience overall for you?
Well, so I asked very basic, blunt questions, like, "What can I do?"
Mhm.
And then once she said, like, the pill, I was like, "Is there any other course of action?"
Oh,
I
so you
wasn't
did
really
get to
very
ask that. You did get to ask that.
yeah,
Okay.
and then that's when she went with the cream, and then essentially she was like, "Yeah, you could go." So she literally prescribed me these, like, 2 excuse me, this is not something I mentioned to you, but she prescribed me these 2 things that I could go pick up at CVS,
Hmm.
which I didn't do because, um, I was just, like, so, like, thrown off by, like, I felt like I was just being sold something, you know what I'm saying? Like, as if she was, like, getting so the way I felt about it, right, was she's trying to just get me out of here, just
Hmm.
get her job done as quickly as possible.
That's interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like, here, like, quick. It's like a Band-Aid type of. It's like a
Maybe
Band-Aid type of.
I'll throw in like a reflexive response.
Yeah.
Curious, like, so if you were to, this just comes to my mind kind of spontaneously here. If you were to imagine or design what that visit would have looked like for your, most ideal experience, like any initial couple thoughts come to your mind?
Um, more attentive, just asking me more questions.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't get the vibe that she really cared about what was going on, you know what I'm saying? Like,
mm,
and like with you sometimes, you've been a doctor for so long, you have seen patterns in certain things, right? But with her, it didn't even feel like that, you know what I'm saying? I just felt like she was just trying to give me something really quickly so I could get out of there and get like the answer to my question as fast as possible, and just
sure,
like just get the ball moving. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? That's what it felt like.
yeah,
Like I said, like I didn't even bother looking into what she prescribed me
yeah,
because I was just so thrown off. It's like, how can I, like, how can I really trust your credibility as a doctor if you're just prescribing me something that has like these side effects off the bat without taking a more natural course of action,
Mm,
or at least like trying to educate me more on what it really is. She basically just gave me like a rundown, like you're reading a page of a book, you're skimming it, right? That's what it felt like when
yeah,
she was
yeah,
like telling me this. It's like prevents hair loss, something testosterone, something DHT or whatever
yeah, yeah.
blocker side effects. Didn't mention that I looked into it because I was curious. Blindness. She mentioned that in the younger groups, right, it can cause suicidal um thoughts or whatever, like you know what I'm saying, like
Hmm,
depression, right?
wow.
And then the way she described it was um in the young group that just might be because they are so self-conscious about losing hair, right?
Hmm,
So that was weird.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then in the older age groups, right? Obviously, like men and women, women with menopause, men with just drop of libido or drop of testosterone can cause impotency. You know, like obviously you can look at it that way, but you can also look at it like maybe it does cause impotency and maybe it does cause depression or, you know, suicidal, you know,
yeah. Tendencies or
tendencies. Yeah.
yeah,
And I just thought that was so weird. It's like I said, like I looked into it, right? For my like I was like, what could I possibly use to like help my scalp health and my hair health? Aloe vera, coconut oil,
yeah,
rosemary oil, just all these other things that I could just at least try. You know what I'm saying? Like let's trial
yeah,
and error this. Like if none of those work, fine. Maybe if I really care about my hair that much, I'll take that finasteride. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Right. So remind me, did we talk about? Did I suggest we just save that discussion for here? Or did we actually get into it a little bit? I don't feel like we did get into it much.
I, I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
we
not
did.
sure. I mean, it's,
You want to just chat it out here lifetime?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm because it's not an uncommon question. It's actually interesting. So I've been in practice like 22 years post residency now,
Hmm.
and it doesn't feel like I have any memory of people talking about hair loss in their 20s. Okay, but
Hmm.
this would be the, I think, third or fourth conversation about this from guys in less than the last 4 months.
Mm,
Okay, so like, and I don't know what that's about. Is that coincidence? I don't know, but that's a big coincidence for 20 years time, right? But
right.
anyway, let's just jump into a couple of those things. All right, so and I'll keep this abbreviated, so and concise, and let you lead where your questions may or may not be. So number one, back to the ketoconazole, right? So that's that, as you said, it's an antifungal. It's actually it used to be. I don't know if it still is, but it used to be the active ingredient in Selsun Blue as a shampoo. All right.
Really, I also tried Selsun Blue, but it didn't help me much a while ago.
Yeah, so like I said, I haven't looked at that in so many years. I don't know if they've changed the ingredients or, changed the concentration or who knows what. I won't say that I know for a fact it was in Head and Shoulders, but at least when I was growing up, Head and Shoulders was always branded as sort of like the big dandruff shampoo. So
My dad, yeah, my dad used to buy a lot, and there's actually this brand that they don't even sell at Market Basket anymore, or you have to order on Amazon. That actually just gets the job done. It's actually really good.
yeah, so it's just to say there are over-the-counter versions of topical ketoconazole in shampoo form specifically for dandruff, because a lot of people don't know that dandruff is commonly an expression of this condition called seborrheic dermatitis of the
Hmm.
scalp, which is what leads to the dandruff. Okay, and then when you get seborrheic dermatitis of the face, then it's just like it just feels like you constantly have a little bit of a sunburn, and a lot of times there's flaking and peeling, just like dandruff, except it's coming off your eyebrows, and then
Yep.
not uncommonly in this area, right? Sometimes it's just kind of irritating and it feels, like I said, like you've been in the sun too long, a little red, a little itchy, and then it gets flaky. So that's seborrheic dermatitis, right? Not a threatening thing, not going to become a bigger problem, but it's annoying to people. All right.
Hmm.
So that's the ketoconazole part. But shifted quickly into, okay, we're talking about the hair change. So if you asked, hey, so how often does seborrheic dermatitis lead to hair loss, right? Or even if it's only mild, I'm not going to say that I can recall for sure in data or research or whatever that it's commonly associated. It wouldn't shock me, but I don't think of it like a strong correlation, and not in an intense way if it is. But if we just dive right into that hair loss piece, and so there's two pieces that I reflect on when you talk about that experience. One is the actual office experience, which is kind of like more of a reflection of the conventional healthcare system.
Hmm.
And the other one is the sort of like the way you go about decision making for that condition. And we can apply that to any condition, but it's a great, straightforward, simple example. On the first of those two topics with the healthcare system side, this might sound like I'm kind of defending it, which I'm not. All right, but I'm also
Hmm.
not sort of accusing the system. It's just, I don't know, the way the system is what it is. It kind of, it just,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. But you, first of all, when you say it felt like I was kind of just being rushed and they're moving on to, they're trying to move on to the next patient, I will guarantee right now that's got to be like, I would expect that to be the number one priority or sort of goal or an agenda for that practitioner. All right. A doctor, it could have been a PA, it could have been a nurse practitioner. It doesn't matter for me. And I'm not being personal to them. I'm not accusing them. I'm not throwing shade at them. It's just the system, right? Let me just ask you, just out of fun, for fun, a fun sidebar. If you had to guess, how many patients would you say an average, a typical primary care or dermatologist, let's even say dermatologist, how many visits would you imagine they might see in a day on average?
Over probably like 100, 200.
For one practitioner?
Oh no, I thought you meant like an office as a
Oh,
whole.
sorry. Just let's say one practitioner.
20?
Yeah, that's a fair guess, right? That's a fair guess. And so it does vary as to what kind of specialty they're in or whatever. But let me tell you this: I know when I was in medical school, when I was in medical school, I followed this rheumatologist at where I was in medical school, not in our town or Boston for that matter. This guy saw easily over 40 a day, most every day. And I think there was, I don't know if, were there ever over 50? I can't remember for sure. Okay. But it was easily over 40 a day regularly. Okay. And this guy, and I'm not throwing shade. I'm just giving you, like, it's almost a
Yeah.
little entertaining. The guy, he would sit and eat lunch in this back sort of
Boss.
closet that was actually a bathroom. It was like a bathroom closet in the same way. He'd sit there and eat, and then he'd be going to the bathroom at the same time while he's dictating on his machine so that people can transcribe his notes for the charts. I kid you not. I mean, it was the funniest thing. Like, I don't know how he does all three at the same time, right? He's talking while his mouth is full, and he's sometimes taking a crap. I mean, I say that to be funny. I'm not personal, but it was just hilarious. Okay. I will tell you, there are, I know practitioners and colleagues even who they're seeing over 40 people a day sometimes. I don't know how often. I'm not like over the shoulder and whatever else, and it's not a shade, but it's not uncommon. The thing is, here's the thing. When I do the math and figure out like how much time do you have per patient if you're seeing over 40 people in a day, even if you stretch the hours into like, say, let's 8 a.m. to 5:30 or whatever, okay? I mean, the numbers are ridiculous, okay? So it's to say, I mean, so look, some of that is just up for background. Some of that is there's fewer and fewer doctor practices that are independently owned. Okay, it's been a lot of years and it just keeps on moving more and more towards centralization, and the bigger entities sort of gobble up the. It's just really hard to independently own a practice anymore.
Yeah,
it's just getting harder and harder. So in that case, then when you're sort of at the you're being measured. I literally measured, like, how much are you producing? It really is like a production. There are metrics of that sort. There are terms for all this stuff. And then some of it's your income depends on that, but also sometimes you're even getting penalized if you don't meet certain numbers sometimes. Okay. So bottom line is, like, there's a huge pressure on just seeing more and more people. And I don't know how that's ever going to change right now in the system that we have. So that's likely huge, if not the primary driver to your experience. Okay. Moving on from that, though, the second thing is that there's so much to know. We're only taught, sort of like a limited category or approach to healthcare. Okay. So you're asking, this kind of bleeds into the second category of your experience, which is the content, right? You describe, like, she talks about this pill and then she moves on to this prescription topical. Like, what happened to other things that I can do for myself, or that are sort of more natural based, if you will, or lifestyle based, right? And you could have easily said, like, oh, well, how much does stress play a role in this? Like, can I work on that, right? And then you said, how about like eating, maybe exercise, etc. So, and the problem is we just aren't really, at least I know it's been 25 years since I was in medical school, but I highly doubt that is adequately, there's adequate space for that in teaching, because there's just too much other stuff to be taught.
Yeah, 100%.
And then on top of that, I'd say that's really the another driving force behind that is that there's just not enough data around that, right? And the conventional healthcare system is the following: what can we do that is predictable in outcome that the insurance companies will pay for? Okay, if they're like, we're going to pay for those visits, not even the prescriptions or whatever. If we're going to pay for that service and that visit, we want to know that you're spending the time with like meaningful outcome predictability. And so when we don't have enough data to say, well, how likely is aloe
That to
vera
work.
or coconut oil or anything to work, and how long will it take? And we don't have that to be able to put in front of somebody and recommend it with authority and confidence, then we're not taught that. And we're like, yeah, we don't know. And that's a very uncomfortable thing for doctors to feel and say to a patient is, I don't know. That's not very commonly heard.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, anyway, that's, again, it's not defending the person. It's just, that's all context to, kind of like what you experienced. But it sounded to me like, hey, you would have loved to have had, I love what you said that, I would have loved to at least just been heard and seen a little bit more by being asked a few questions, right? And I'm going to
Yeah.
guess, you tell me here, if she would have just one question, if she would have just asked, well, do you have a preference between pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical approaches or lifestyle, slash lifestyle approaches? How much would that have changed your experience?
Exactly. Like that could have even just driven the conversation to a whole different end. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm thinking too, right? And
I just thought it was very odd. It was like very just like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was like there was no like pause to really like digest what was being said to me and what was even the issue at hand. You know what I'm saying? Like, her assistant came in. Her assistant asked me questions. She came in, asked me like one very like umbrella type of question that just covers everything. Like, so like, what is the reason for your visit today, or something of that sort. I can't really recall too well. And that just like, yes, like you're asking me like what the issue is, but it's like that's a very broad and vague response you're gonna get. It's like, so basically I had dandruff, hair loss, blah blah blah, take this lifetime pill.
yeah. I love the way you put that. Oh, that's nice. Take this lifetime pill. Here you go. See you
And
later.
I just don't like the thought of that. It's like, why would, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the other thing also that I looked into is that it somehow has something to do with the testosterone and blocking something that causes the hair loss. And once it got to that, it was just kind of like, what could possibly go wrong? Especially since it's something I'm not familiar with. And how long has it been out there? You know, how many studies are there? Is it third party tested? This and that, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Yeah, it opens up a lot of questions, doesn't it?
absolutely.
And so, on other interviews that we've done, that on other podcasts, this is a common topic. It's actually a recurringly bigger and bigger frequency of topic that I foresee as we keep going, because with the internet's been around for a lot of years, right? I mean, obviously, I
Mhm.
mean, I remember when I was in college when it was when it was coming out, okay, but that's not new. AI is newer, but it's just as an enhancement. And so for me, since the pandemic, the lay public, any individual, the healthcare interest and self-advocacy has grown more and more since COVID, and
Mm.
and I think for related reasons. And then now it's getting more and more complex, where people have enough information to ask more questions. And in the end, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but there's no way anyone's gonna know the answers when we keep asking the questions, because we just don't know enough about our body
Right.
health and whatever. So it gets really difficult, and just gets to be more of this ongoing sort of nonstop spinning wheel.
It's like an infinite regress of some sort, and it's just like there's no end.
Yeah. And I think that's why my observation, you tell, hey, maybe this is another topic here, but so, my sense is there's a growing number of people doing DIY work, what I call DIY work, right? Do it yourself
Yeah.
online, especially in the sort of, well, in all sectors, but especially in that sort of longevity world that's still kind of like early stage evolution right now. That touches on one of the topics you listed as a possible discussion point, so I'll save that. But so just to problem solve for you directly, all right, back to the hair loss piece, okay? Or and I hear you saying it's not like it's massive. It's not massive. It's not patches. So just to
Yeah. I mean, like I don't think it's not that bad. Maybe it was just. I mean, she also mentioned that you lose 100 hairs a day, so that's.
if
I don't
she
know how accurate that is, but then I was like, okay, cool. So maybe I'm not completely screwed.
did she say anything about how many grow back in a day, or?
No.
Okay, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that kind of statistic. So it's a little disconcerting to hear. It's like I lose 100 hairs a day, but if you don't tell me how many I grow back, I'm like, okay, what's the net per day then? Am I losing 50 a day, or am I right? If you tell me
Am
like,
I
well,
break?
you
Am I?
regain 98 a day, so I'm like, oh, if I'm only losing 2 a day, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Too funny.
So I think kind of tagging on where we ended, right, in terms of the pharma versus non-pharma. All right, and I do believe that some of this stuff crosses over. I do strongly suspect,
Mm.
that I'm getting questions about this stuff at younger years more now than before, because it's an extension, or it's an extension of the whole longevity movement. Okay, and so that's my suspicion. And more people are just hearing stuff about on whatever social media, podcasts, etc., about health, and that especially in that longevity arena. So, looking good and looking younger and all that stuff is part of that. Okay. Or, these could be signs of hormone changes, et cetera, et cetera. But cutting to the chase, look, if we were having this, if we were having a sort of a problem solving, chat about it, yeah, I usually would start with, okay, so do you have a preference? What have you read about? Like, again, you and I know that in our practice, it's a little different because we created a system that has more time to have longer conversations. So with that in mind, I commonly like to start whenever I can remember. It's pretty common, but I don't know if it's 100%. Okay, so what have you read so far? So I know where you're starting from, where you're coming from with your questions, concerns. Okay, so if you express interest already, or I already know you to be someone who's interested in non-pharma, so I'm going to say, okay, so what kind of things are you familiar with, or are you thinking about, or have you already tried? Let's say you bring up the aloe vera, coconut types, oil type stuff. I'm very apt to say, hey, there's no harm. There's no downside. I can easily support that. The question is, how much are you bothered by or worried about what's happening with your hair right now? Because that's where the decision making comes into play. Okay. If you got something that's threatening or potentially threatening, or you're really concerned about it, right? No pun intended here, but like your hair's on fire about it, right? I mean, let's say easy examples like someone's in pain. Okay. If
Yeah.
they've got like 8, 9, 10 out of 10 pain, they don't want to take the slow road.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
They want to be aggressive. Okay. And aggressive doesn't have to mean pharma per se, but it could mean like we got to stack a bunch of things together. We're not going to just count on one thing. We're going to count on multiple things. You got to take a more comprehensive approach, right?
Mm.
But if I hear you and assess for myself that, okay, he's not in a hurry, this is not bad, it's more of a curiosity question. He's trying to get a sense of where his options are and how much to worry, or just where should I be thinking about, what kind of questions should I be asking? Hey, we can take our time and kind of explore whatever you want to explore, including stress management and sleep and nutrition, exercise, and all that stuff, right?
Mm.
And then so that probably would easily land in a road of like, hey, yeah, there may not be database answers about aloe vera, coconut oil, or getting enough sleep, stress management, et cetera. But anecdotally, everyone's going to agree, including conventional doctors, that stress management can play a role in hair loss. And there's data. I would say there's data behind that. All right, if you want to look it up, the medical term for when the hair follicles or the cells and follicles sort of like stop being so vital and active in reproducing is telogen effluvium. Okay, so we can offline that later, but that is a like medical term and condition that's temporary and is commonly attributed to things like a nutrition change, rapid weight loss, stress, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and that can lead to lesser hair growth or even some hair loss, but it's like a temporary thing that isn't threatening over time.
Mm.
All right. And then one step beyond that is if you were to say, hey, I read about, or hey, the dermatologist talked about finasteride, or commonly the topical people are talking about is called minoxidil, which is basically Rogaine over the counter. If you had questions around that, then okay, we could talk about that. And honestly, just tagging off of what you said, yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be like an expert on, because a lot of people ask, like, it seems kind of backwards about the testosterone in hair and dihydrotestosterone, the DHT referenced, especially if we're talking about women, et cetera. Okay. But putting that aside just for the time being, when I step back, the whole assessment is, okay, are we really able to answer enough questions that help you feel comfortable to make a decision where you might actually choose that path? Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
If I assess reading the room, if you will, that you're actually trying to validate your disinterest and not taking those, then how I might answer those in tone, or like which aspects of the question we're going to answer in what kind of emphasis might change. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're purely just curious, that's one thing. If I hear you like you don't want it and you're asking these things almost like trying to, put holes in the argument, that's not hard to do. So it ultimately is going to come down to, like I say, time, effort, money. Those are the big filters for me on decision making. In this case, if you're not in a hurry, time's not an issue, right? Effort, not really a thing. Like pills, topical, whatever. It's not a huge thing one way or the other. And then money, okay, prescriptions for those kind of things is pretty cheap and easy. And if other lifestyle matters, that's not really a money thing. So we have a lot of options on the table. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come down like how big a deal it is for you and how fast you want to see results.
Yeah.
Any I don't mean just like go off on too much be verbal diarrhea there, but thoughts that
No,
come out
not
of
at
that?
all. Not at all.
Yeah, so is that like a good wind up in terms of that problem solving for that topic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like you mentioned, it's, at the end of the day, the advancements that, human beings have made in like the medical field, pharma and such, like obviously some of them have been fantastic, right? Like pain relievers, huge, right?
Yeah.
Anesthesia, huge. And it's like some of those you can't really just give away because you want to be more natural. It's like if you want to make sure that your surgery goes by very like just very smoothly, you kind of have to have anesthesia depending on what type of surgery it is. But then I feel like there's also parts of it where it's like, I feel like that's not exactly necessary that we need to go to these compounds and chemicals and stuff. Like we can just literally just eat more of this and eat more of that, or don't eat this and control your sleep and be more hydrated, or, you're in a lack of this nutrient and that stuff. I feel like nowadays people are just, what I'm saying? They're either one or the other. It's like I want to be all natural, or
Mhm.
I just go with meds. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I
Mhm.
feel like you have to find a balance in between, which I think is huge, and not get so, left or right. I'm
Polarized.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't be completely ignorant to this side, and you completely ignorant to this side. You just have to, assess both with your personal due diligence and just figure out, okay, so, like I said, if I'm gonna get a surgery, anesthesia, if, hair loss, I'm gonna give these things a try, and if it's really that serious and I care that much about it, I'm probably gonna go to some sort of pharma. If these things that are natural won't fix it.
I love I'm not just saying this to say this to, blow your put air in your head. Like I love the conclusion you summarize here, right? Because it's totally
Mhm.
in line. It's not well, part of it's just because it's just so resonant with how I think about things, but it's harder and harder these days. I think you and I could both agree on multiple levels. It's not just healthcare, right? I mean,
Oh,
politics,
absolutely.
anything. Like everything's just becoming more polarized, right?
Yeah, I
It's
feel like it's
hard
so
to find a
weird.
gray line, gray zone.
And I feel like everything has a gray zone. I feel like, well, obviously, because if there's a left and a right side, or a top and a bottom, there's gonna be a middle. I feel like at that point, it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's up to the person's own capability. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't really um expect people to do that, or, force people to do that. You just kind of have to put it out there and hope that they can not figure out themselves, but, kind of just plant the seed.
And I think that's the hard part right now. There's so much information. It makes me reflect on a lot of what we're trying to accomplish in this podcast is it's not a comfortable thing for a lot of people, and it's not sort of vogue or trendy to sit in the middle, like because there's so much polarization. But if I'm just of the mindset, and me as professionally, or our office and the colleagues I know, like our goal is like, hey, best of both worlds, right? The best of the best. If it's on
Hmm.
this side, the best of the best over here, the best of the best over here. And there's a time and place for most anything, but the decision making is not so easy necessarily. It's a lot more straightforward in this example we're talking about with yourself. But
Hmm.
like you said, like yeah, when there's something that's an emergency and the risk is high, do you really want to roll the dice on stuff that you don't really know there's not as much data about? Okay, if you
Hmm.
do and you take ownership of that, then that's your call. You live your life. But most people are probably not going to want to roll the dice in that case. When it's something else
Hmm.
that's not as big of a deal, hey, we've got a lot of options and we have time. So fair enough. So yeah, I love your reflections. Like like I said at the beginning, this is just
Hmm.
a lot of what I love about you. So
Yeah. And also, like, as soon as you mentioned, like, there's so much information there, it kind of brought me to the topic of one of the ones that I mentioned was like just like the peptides,
yeah,
right? And which is one that I still find very interesting because I'm constantly seeing influencers pushing peptides and people offering peptides. And it's, although we've talked about this and we've, come to the conclusion that like some of them are very well studied, and some of them in certain cases have great benefits, and you can't really just put everything in a jump, like what's the word, in a bundle, and just say like, oh, it's all good, go
yeah,
ahead. And I feel like you have these influencers. Influencers are called influencers because they influence people, right?
right,
People, well, duh, right? And like the grass is green, but they have this large following, right?
yeah.
And they want to make money. They make money from being an influencer. So they say, oh yeah, I'm doing this and it's making me feel like this and it's fantastic. There's no side effects. I feel like it's kind of scary to think about because like your best friend might see that, try it out, and then get some terrible outcome from it, and all this information being out there and people taking it upon themselves to just give it a shot. Like, oh, I'm going to try, I'm sure you've heard of retatrutide. which it's like literally just blown up because it apparently helps you burn more fat and just look very lean, right?
And I can't figure out where people are getting that from.
That's another issue
You're
because
you're talking
people are
about the you're
getting
talking
it.
about the oral GLP-1, right?
I'm not sure what the actual like a symbol for it or what it's actually genuinely called, but
Okay.
people call it retatrutide,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah, we're
those
talking
are the
about the
only
same thing.
2
Yeah.
names I'm familiar with, and I just feel like it's like, guys, you're not even getting this from like a valid source. This random guy that you
And
saw
I
on
only ask
social
about
media.
that just for awareness for everybody. That's actually a prescription. I mean, we all know that people are able to get that through non-prescription avenues, like in the injection form. Okay, with semaglutide and
Yeah,
tirzepatide and all that stuff. So
injection, it's
it's just that I'm not. It's not foreign to me what you're talking about, but it's
mhm,
interesting that you're bringing it up because I've never heard that brought up to me by any patient to date. Okay,
really.
I only know about it from Reddit and it's not even colleagues actually. I think I only know about it from Reddit forums.
Mhm.
Interestingly, so I'm just kind of like wondering. I don't even remember. I'll be honest with you. At the time of this recording right now, I don't even know if it's commercially available in the U.S. or is it only in like Canada and other countries or whatever. But in any case, let me let you go. Keep going.
No, yeah, I have no idea how people are getting this, but you see people in like comment sections saying like DM me, I know where to get it, this and that,
Hmm.
and it's like very shady stuff. And the reason why I asked you about peptides and what you thought about peptides and your personal experience and knowledge on the topic was because I heard about retatrutide, and a while ago, I was I've always been like since I don't know, I've always been like more of like a heavy set guy. Not heavy set, but like more like muscular. I hold a lot of weight, right? Mass. And recently I got a slightly herniated disc and I stopped going to the gym because I just couldn't move, right? And I gained a lot of weight, a lot of fat because I eat a lot. And since I wasn't moving, well, the fat was accumulating. And I heard about retatrutide and I was like, obviously like as a product, it solves a solution very quickly. So obviously, off the bat, it's so appealing. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's like a golden goose egg. And that's why I asked. But the more and more I thought about it, like I've been going to the gym and I've been seeing my personal results, just like losing weight, keeping my mass, eating healthier, getting more sleep, controlling my stress, taking certain nutrients like zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, omega 3s, fish oils, right? I've just been feeling so much better and I've been seeing weight just fall right off of me
Wow,
without taking any of that stuff.
good for you.
So, thank you. And that's like one of the things that's like I feel like people have been so just not brainwashed, but so compelled to like go to the quickest possible path, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like I think like mentally, like I said, once again, it's like I don't want to be ignorant because of a lack of education on the topic. But it's like I swear that, there's always a catch. There's gotta be always a catch to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like if you want this, you gotta give this up. If you want this is gonna go with it. Or if you take this is also coming with it. And like retatrutide, and all that stuff, I feel like, we're so used to it's like a bad habit to get into to go to steroids, peptides, this and that. It's like, oh, Ozempic, right? Which is something I personally do not agree with, Ozempic. Maybe in like very severe cases, can't just completely rule it out. Um, it's like what happened to just naturally adapting yourself as a human being, right?
So what kind of what subtopic question can we drill on that right now?
That's a good
Well,
question.
there's several pieces to that.
Mm, you pick.
Like we okay. Hey, so yeah, the peptide topic can be so broad ranging. So all right, well let's try that for just a little bit here. So because we've had a little conversation around that, but I don't recall that it was extensive. So we'll just kind of like extend a little bit from that. So it's
Mm,
interesting. I mean, literally, raw and unscripted here. I've had two conversations with two different colleagues about peptides in the last 2 days. All right. Literally Friday and then Saturday, different colleagues asking me, just for a little, so like quick download on peptides. And so like there's a lot that could be said, but I think on a short and quick piece of summary of that is these are compounds we make naturally. They're bioidentical. Okay, I'm not going to say I know like where the sourcing all comes from. They're not like sourced from humans, so that's why we call them bioidentical, right? But they're same as what we make naturally. We just make less of it them as we get older, and there's times that we could use more of it than we have. Okay, even if we have a quote unquote normal amount. The biggest problem I have with peptides is we don't have a way to gauge, like test or assess how much a person has or needs, okay, either directly or indirectly.
Oh, so you wait, hold on. You can't tell how much a person actually makes, like how much of whatever whatever peptide I make in my body, you can't test how much I have in my body
Yeah,
at the
so
moment?
let's just get concrete. BPC 157 is probably the one that most people talk about. They've heard about, read about, etc. Okay. Everyone seems to have heard about BPC 157. A guy I played basketball with asked me about that like 6 months ago, and I was like, dude, we talked about this like 4 years ago. He's like, oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot. I mean, this is not new. Okay. But it's just
Mm,
picking up more and more steam, and people have to hear it more than once before something sinks in and whatever else. So it's very trendy right now, right? And I don't mean
mm,
that negatively, just it's a thing. So let's use BPC 157 as clinicians. Like the way we're trained a lot of as a bread and butter is to diagnose and assess and diagnose a need or a problem and then respond accordingly. So with the problem with the BPC with any peptide, including BPC 157, is I have no way to assess how much BPC is 157 you're making or the parent compound of BPC 157, whatever. I have no way of telling you that. And therefore, so if you have an injury, all right, and you want to talk about using BPC 157 for faster recovery, I could just generally and categorically, overarchingly just say, yeah, go for it. Okay, it's a low harm, low risk concern to me. And even if you have a normal amount, even if I could assess it, hey, you have an injury right now, so it's not hard to just say, hey, a little more right now. It's not harmful. Okay,
mhm,
so, but if we're just, it's just uncomfortable to me whenever we can't assess a need. Okay,
mhm,
because the second part of that is this is not because beyond beyond the whole topic of that it's not regulated. Okay, and it's not like I have big issues with that because I work in that realm all the time with unregulated, whether diagnostic or therapeutics or whatever. But the key is like they're not like $10 treatments. All right. And so when you're talking about something that might, cost people $100 a month, right? And for some people, $100 a month is like it's like brushing your teeth. They don't care. Okay.
mhm,
But that's not who I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the lay person who $100 a month is not chump change, especially in our economy as it is right now. Okay.
mhm.
And then when you start talking about stacking these peptides together, like, and I have colleagues all the time, and I'm not throwing shade again, but it's regularly like two or three things at all one time. And you're stacking and you're talking 250, 300 or plus dollars a month. And especially then when there is revenue being generated from that by the practitioners at times, commonly, okay? I won't say universally, but commonly. Now I've got skepticism,
Right.
right? Like, look, I'm not against the notion of making money per se. Okay, and money, I don't look at it as like money is evil. It's a way of exchange, but I do have constant concern about human nature. You
Right.
call it human
Yes.
nature, you can call it sin nature, whatever it is, it's all the same. I am always guarding myself, like, okay, where am I coming from with my thinking, decision making, my biases, and I would like to believe everyone else is at least somewhat reflective of that. But when it comes to money, like it becomes a fast driver for a lot of people, right?
Mhm,
So if all of a sudden practitioners or influencers or whoever it is, doesn't matter who it is, whoever that person is, they're human. And if they start recommending peptides all the time and you can't hold them accountable, you can't assess it. You can't tell if the person really needs it and how long to take it and whatever else. It's all kind of like an estimate. And there's money involved. Now I just it's a little uncomfortable.
so you started questioning the credibility.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. Like, so going back to your example, if influencers are recommending it, they can't be held accountable that something like was not necessary or it was a wrong idea or whatever, because you can't test for it, right? And
Mhm,
then so now there's just money exchange being able to be had with no recourse. So again, so in principle, to bring it down, in principle, I'm a total fan of peptides. I am. I wish they were cheaper. Okay. Inability to assess the need for it and the lesser established protocols. If you will. There are protocols. All right. There's courses on for practitioners on all this stuff. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on the peptides. I'm not. Okay. In the way that I define experts, which is a high bar. But I've learned enough about it over the years, and we do use it. I do use it. But I think, speaking to your point, where it's so widespread and it's kind of just sort of recommended across the board and any and all cases, whatever. Hey, if it wasn't a cost issue, and I think there's a low risk of harm other than the sourcing and fillers and whatever else might be the case, which is another topic. But yeah, it's just it's a tough thing to like navigate right now as far as decision making. For any given individual. Should I take it? Should I not?
Yeah, I mean, in back to the sourcing aspect of it that you mentioned, um, a lot of people are starting to just advertise it. Like I remember seeing this like Redditruitide like drink. I'm like, what? They're like advertising like cheap and easily accessible. And when something is like when something cuts a corner, it's cheap and easy to access. That really just raises a couple of red flags to me.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like, and I mean, from my perspective, obviously, if something is that great and fantastic, right, it will be regulated. And a lot of this stuff is lacking regulation. It's like, is it even available in the US? Is it available in
Yeah.
Canada? If it's available in Canada, how is it getting here? Who's
So
allowing it to get in here?
if I can pause on that just for 1 second, one of the problems with regulation that is a constant dilemma in the functional medicine world is if it's a natural compound, like it'll never be able to be regulated.
Really?
Yeah, that's the thing. If it's natural occurring, you can't regulate it. That's a U.S. Policy, right? So like melatonin that we make naturally, it can't be regulated. Okay, hormones like DHEA as a supplement, like that can't be regulated.
Is that a
So
good thing or a bad thing?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if we have to look at it that way, but it is what it is. And so the problem there is with these peptides that are bioidentical, I don't think they're ever going to be regulated
Because they fall under the umbrella of,
because they're naturally occurring. Okay. Now, having said that, I want to just pause on one thing that I just think is I had this conversation with the two practitioners in the last 2 days, and I just think it's an awesome example. Okay. For people who are skeptical about this kind of thing, one of my favorite peptides is thymosin alpha 1, short term just TA1. This is a prescription in other countries. Okay. If you look it up, there's actually a trade name for this that I'll be honest with you, I can't remember if that's a trade name. It must be a trade name in other countries, not in the US, I believe. But if it's available in the US under this name, I just don't remember because I've never seen any patient offered it. I've never heard any colleague talk about it, et cetera. It's called Zadaxin with a Z. If you
Mhm.
look at data, like studies on thymosin alpha 1, it's a little mind blowing. All right. Its benefit and impact shown on 3 types of cancers, including 1 type of lung cancer and malignant melanoma.
Mhm.
Hepatitis B, hepatitis C, which is what I remember is meaningfully a prescription usage in other countries, okay, for this TA1. And it works. We know how it benefits the immune system specifically, which is how it then translates into treating cancers and chronic virus problems like Hep B and Hep C, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So this is one where, in fact, the sort of like fun factoid about this is I don't know this for a fact, but from my observation, my POV, this is what led to the sort of FDA clampdown on peptides was the pandemic. Because TA1 has all these mechanisms known, especially with viruses, that people started using this in some circles for COVID, and then it became a conflict, right? In terms of like the vaccine and everything else. I'm not getting political here. I'm just saying,
Yeah, yeah.
time correlation, all right? It's undoubtedly, it was a time correlation. It's like, don't use ivermectin, don't use TA1. In fact, we're shutting down the TA1 and we're not, insurance companies are not paying for ivermectin. We don't care what you're using it for, even if it's legit for its real purposes, blah, blah, blah. Like we're just shutting it down. Okay. And then after TA1, then other peptides sort of came under scrutiny too. And all of a sudden, like compounding pharmacies couldn't make them available anymore. And that's where it kind of then resulted in people going like, where are we going to get this from? And all of a sudden these companies pop up and they've found ways to kind of sort of skirt around the
Yeah,
regulation.
like get through the little holes in the system
Yeah, because
and
basically
that's
they all
all.
say on the website, this is for research purposes only. And they know, I mean, people are just buying them by the gobs as individuals. It's not for research, but they're presenting it as that. And then because it's not regulated, that's the thing. We got all kinds of issues around this, and you're very you should be applauded for recognizing that, hey, there's some discernment that should be had here. Okay, because where's the sourcing come from? What could be in them? The same person could be all natural thinking and saying like, I'm going to get peptides. I want to be natural. And at the same time, they're like, oh, I just read all this stuff about it. Like you don't want heavy metals and all this stuff, all this other junk, but like it's in the peptides you just bought.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, and we can't, it's hard to cut through all the noise and it's hard to know all the ins and outs about everything. So it's a challenging world to navigate right now,
Yeah, I mean, like
including especially about the peptides.
like how, unless if you own a lab or you know someone that owns a lab that can test this stuff, how do you know that what you're getting even is anything? What if it's just like a placebo effect? You know what I'm saying? Which would be kind of hilarious.
And again, because you can't test it, then I'm a big believer in the placebo effect. Okay. And it's not all bad.
I feel like it works. Some of it works. It's kind of weird
Yeah, absolutely.
because not that like I ever think about getting or ever encourage anyone to do it, but I know a guy who has taken steroids, and his thing is it's like People think that taking steroids is like a magical thing, which, in some ways it's fantastic, right? But, whatever goal you want to end up in, but, they think that it does all this for you, but they start to see progress and then they focus more on eating better and sleeping and working out harder. And they see this crazy increase in progress. And it's like, is that really the steroid, or is it just you kind of, honing in and just doing better with a little crutch, which I feel like in some ways the placebo effect comes out like that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So my wife, she does all this research, and a lot of their research is a lot of foundational principles of research is trying to eliminate the confounding factors, they call it, right? The
Mhm.
other pieces that you might be looking at this cause effect, but you're attributing cause effect, but it's really actually very strongly a result of something else that is correlate with that you overlooked, right? So they're trying to reduce all these variables for the sake of narrowing it to a more predictable cause effect. But you're right. It's really hard to do in life in general because there's just so many variables in life and everything's always changing.
Constantly.
Uh, so listen, I mean, we got a few other things we did list as possibilities, but I also want to be respectful of your time because I know you said you're off to hit the weights
Yeah, I
or the
gotta
cardio.
I gotta hop on the stairmaster.
Okay, the cardio part. So yeah, you did the weights earlier today, the cardio. So look, again, like you take you're really mindful about taking care of yourself, which is awesome, awesome, awesome. And again, I love your curiosity. I love
Mhm.
your discernment and the reflections that you make, the introspections, and I'm fully aware. You and I are both fully aware that it's not easy because the questions commonly lead to more questions, and at some point we have to internally, individually find a sweet spot where okay, I've answered enough questions to make a decision and not drive myself nuts and spin circles all the time and such because we just
Yeah.
drive ourselves into the ground. But I love the especially for where you're at in your stage of life, in the whole spectrum of the age range. It's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing some of these thoughts and concerns and questions because, like I said at the beginning, I am absolutely sure there's a ton of people who think about a lot of and ask themselves or other people the same kind of questions and thoughts that you've expressed here.
Mhm.
So it's not easy because our end take home messages today might be one, the healthcare system is tough. It is like there's a time pressure and limitation. So how do we decide as patients, myself included as a patient? It's a little easier for me because I kind of know the back end. So the real question is how do we prioritize which questions we really need answered when we're in front of a practitioner, right? In an office setting, in the hospital, whatever it is, if we have limited time, which are the top things I need to know and how do I ask those? That's
Mhm.
not easy, but that's where I think people are going to need to go. And that might be a question people are throwing into AI more and more. Maybe it's an encouragement to say, hey, maybe we should start asking AI, like, which of these questions, I have all these questions here. Let me list them all. Which ones are the most important for my goal need, right? That'd be a really
Mhm.
interesting experiment. And then number two is that, yeah, so it's not to defend the healthcare system or the practitioners. It's just there's a lot of pressures, different angles, different needs.
Yeah.
They're trying to
I mean,
make goals.
there's always like two sides of the story to the point where it's like, you can look at it in a negative light, but also look at it in a positive light to the point where it's like, you know, as a medical practitioner, your job is to take care of clients. If you have a lot of clients, you have to take care of them very quickly. If you have to take care of them very quickly, how are you going to do that in an efficient manner? And, me being in the client's shoes, it's like I'm like, oh, I don't feel like I'm being heard, but you have to take it into your own hands is also like you have to put it on the table like this is what's going on, this is what I want to happen. How could you possibly guide me in taking the right course of action to get to this point with these filters,
Yeah,
like non-pharmaceutical, whatever, like I want natural stuff, I have time, budget, such and such.
I love that. Hey, you should create an app for that. No, seriously, like what's going to happen is we're going to need some kind of creative solution is going to have to derive out of these problems that we're facing right now, right? There's more and
Mhm.
more time requirements on practitioners, on the healthcare system, more dollars being spent. As of right now, we already know the healthcare plans next year are going to start charging people more. And they're all talking about having taken a huge loss, even though it's a lot of money they're still making. But they're all seeing this, right? There's pressures that are going to keep evolving. We're going to have to find ways to, as what we have control over is only ourselves. We're going to have to find ways to optimize our healthcare experiences in not both conventional and non-conventional systems, but it's just in the non-conventional system, it's a lot more of a wild, wild west,
Right.
So
And, not that saying that the healthcare system or medical practitioners are like, what's the word? My point is, if you take care of your health, right, mindfully, and, you avoid things that are going to cause a negative impact on your body and your health and this and that, how often are you really going to have to go see a medical practitioner?
I love
How
that.
often, what I'm saying? Like, how often do you have to go to the emergency room? How often do you have to, you know, if you're taking substances and drugs and abusing anything, it can be sugar, it can be certain foods and grease and uh, cholesterol is like a controversial one because there's good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, too much, not enough, whatever. But people nowadays like they just completely forget that all of that exists. It's like, hey, maybe I should go on a walk, meditate, self reflect. I should probably take a day off here or go on a trip and just relax your mind. Or I should probably work out. I should probably get my body moving because your body's like a machine. You have to get sunlight, you have to hydrate, you have to add fuel, you have to eat. And the fuel that you put in your car matters because, if you toss diesel in a gas car, guess what? No good. Just like if you toss a bunch of junk food in your body and now your body's like working so hard to just, make that terrible processed food just somehow become nutrients in your body, you're just going to feel sluggish and tired. You're going to get no sleep. If you just try your best to go about it the right lane or like the right way, you'll just feel better. And then how often you're gonna have to take these meds and, take these prescriptions and this and that. You know what I'm saying? Like you really want to rely on that for the rest of your life?
I love it, man. You look, you're like preaching. You're like in church preaching to the healthcare church, right? I mean, it's like you are, man. I mean, you're basically summarizing what you just said. The more ownership we take over what we have control over, the less likely we're going to run into,
Right.
statistically, no doubt, statistically, the less likely we're going to run into these problems and then have to deal with those dilemmas with the healthcare systems, right? That's what you're saying.
Exactly. It's like, people complain about all these things that are out of their control and they're so focused on these variables that are out of their control and you can't do anything about it instead of being focused on exactly what is in your hands. It's like I was just taking my water with electrolytes. Doesn't taste fantastic. It tastes kind of tangy and tart, but guess what? It's going to make me feel good. It's going to retain water in my body and that's good, you know? It's just
What's especially awesome is it's a heck a lot easier for people in the 20s like yourself to be able to have this mindset and be able to do that over time versus the 55, 60-year-old who is trying
right.
to establish that anew, right? So, man, I,
Mhm.
I do I do see a revolution of sorts. I use that term a little bit loosely here. I do see a meaningful movement among younger people, right? I think I mentioned to you, I think that I've had so many 20-some-year-old guys asking about hormones and stuff too. Like I didn't have that happen 15, 10 years ago. So there's so much more of an awareness that I hope that it keeps moving that direction so that people who are in their 20s now will see a significant shift in chronic health issues when they hit their 40s, 50s, et cetera, and beyond.
Right.
So you're like bearing the flag and leading the charge. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I'm sure there's, like, a bunch of other kids, like, even, like, Sebastian's is a kid that kind of, like, is very, attentive to that stuff. So is Christian and a couple more of their friends, you know what I'm saying? And, it just sucks because people who have that type of mentality are getting just absolutely what's the word? Their voice is being buffered by all the noise of people trying to make money off of this and people
Mm.
pushing this and people trying to find the easy way out instead of just like getting their stuff together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's a good segue because I want to be respectful of your time because I know you're got to hit the gym. And so, yeah, I love that because, in the end, we're we're not we're humans. We at RootSeek,
Yeah.
right? Who this podcast is very much associated with as our virtual practice. Like we're all humans too, right? And
Mhm.
we're constantly trying to reflect on what are our motives, our biases, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that's different about I will propose is different about what we're offering is our goals are our end goal if we're quote unquote selling something, and I hate to say that, it's the actual service care. Okay, it's
Right.
not the
Exactly.
product and it's not the product of the month, the product of the whatever. Like if we, I'm going to say it right here to you, if you ever get a sense that I personally or any entity that I'm affiliated with, organizations, whatever, especially that I have leadership in, whether it's RootSeek or otherwise, if you ever sniff like I've changed, I'm selling, like you call me on the mat. All right. Like I don't, that I'm not judging that about anybody else, but that's not who I want to be. And that's not who I am to date. So our goal is like, how do we help people navigate these decisions? Because there
Mhm.
is a lot of stuff out there, and without judging that, it's just, there is, and there are, sometimes it's legit, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's the best option you're going to have regardless. And so, hey, go for it. And other times, not so
Yeah.
much. So
And that's
it's
admirable
tough.
because a lot of people make money off of doing exactly what you just said you don't want to do. But there's obviously going to be a market for people who want just the better service, people who want more care, people who want someone who is going to kind of help them dissect what the issue is and how to get to the solution of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope there'll be more and more people, taking up that, filling that void and that being a presence in that space. Cause I think it's going to be really needed as things just get more complicated with all the
Absolutely.
information and noise with AI. So
Everything's becoming more and more accessible faster and faster. And that's like a great thing, but also not a great thing.
yeah, I love what you said earlier. Like basically everything comes with a price.
Yeah,
There's,
essentially,
there's a pro and a con.
it's like it's the law of I know Christian's gonna get where this is from. It's from one of these animes that I've watched, Full Metal Alchemist, and it's the law of equivalent exchange. You know, for you to burn calories, you have to put in more effort, right? Or for you to burn calories, you have to eat less. For you to run further, you have to practice running farther. It's just like for you to have this, you're gonna have to give this up. And that's essentially how I've been looking at things recently. And it's just kind of like it makes sense. It makes things make more sense, and it helps me get them done. Essentially,
Yeah, you got a you have a yeah, I just love this conversation. We haven't had this kind of conversation, on this kind of level before, and I just hey, you already are, undoubtedly, but you're gonna keep having a really meaningful impact on a lot of people's lives in your world, for years to
I
come.
hope so. I hope I don't have to sell wood for this in my life.
Hey, you might have a future as like something in the healthcare world, maybe you'll
Which
become an influencer.
Right, right.
Who
No, I mean
knows?
the healthcare world is. I used to want to be a not pediatrician,
Maybe.
feet,
Oh,
like
podiatrist.
ankle. Yeah, my ankles. I used to have. It sounds weird saying feet. My ankle. I used to have like a lot of like ankle problems growing up, and I always wanted to be like a doctor that just helped people get through what I went through. But then it's like in school, it wasn't really my thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Well, there's different ways to serve, to serve humanity and be helpful to people. So I'll be
that,
keeping that in the back of my head, as time goes on.
that's funny. But yeah, I mean, just let me know when you want to schedule something else.
It's awesome.
I'm pretty flexible with my timing, weekends especially. Today it was just kind of like
Yeah.
I set something up for 4, and then Nathan was doing this and that and stuff. So
No, it's all good. No, it's all
um,
good. It's awesome because yeah, it's awesome. I appreciate your time. And for folks listening, and then rootseekhealth.com is where we're found as a practice. Again, if you've never worked with a functional medicine practitioner, yeah, it'd be our honor and privilege to kind of be that first experience for you. If you need a second opinion, we don't want to come between anybody and their practitioners at all, but we would be happily available to walk whatever journey with wherever you might be. Otherwise, at the very least, then we hopefully this has been really insightful and helpful to you on some level or another. Feel free to pass it on. And of course, Luigi, thanks for your voice. It's actually really inspiring. Again, like especially for someone in younger years, you actually do legitimately inspire me. So thanks for
I
being who you are.
appreciate that.
It's really
Thank you
good.
so much.
It actually makes it look it makes what I do fun, and it's also inspiring. Like there aren't too many people who have that level of insight and introspection and reflection at earlier stages of life like this, much less us guys, right? Especially us guys.
Yeah, no.
So
Yeah, yep, I go.
yeah, yeah. Keep being you, and keep up your good work.
Of course, appreciate that.
All right, off to the gym. Take care. Thanks,
Yes,
man.
sir. Take it easy.
Okay.